Hi, I'm Stephen Reich here at the pokepress studios in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm on the phone with Anne from Pikapi Podcast, and this is the fourth in our installment of comparisons of the English and Japanese ending themes to the Pokemon movies. So this is episode 4. We're going to do Pokemon Forever, or Celebi, A Timeless Encounter. And on the Japanese side, we have Please Let There Be Good Weather Tomorrow. And on the English side, we have Celebi-r-a-t-e. Very acoustically different songs. We're going to probably get a pretty good comparison. Probably going to also have fun talking about some of the other music associated with this movie. But let's start with some background info on the songs like we usually do. And why don't you tell us about Please Let There Be Good Weather Tomorrow?
Okay, so yeah, the Japanese title of that is Ashita Tenki ni Shite Okure. It was written by Tanaka Hirokazu. If you've listened to some of our past comparisons, he's written a lot of those themes, a lot of music for the Pokemon anime, and a lot of the other songs that are on the Japanese CD. The composer was Tomita Motohiro, and the arrangement and the singing voice was provided by Fuji Fumiya, who he was a pop artist that came up around the 80s and also is the lead singer of a band called The Checkers, which was very famous in their time. They're not so active anymore, but they were sort of a rock and roll band that kind of get credited with breaking away from Western style rock and, finding a truly Japanese sound. They're one of the bands associated with that movement to kind of break away from the stereotypical sounds of rock and roll and to find something that really fit the feel of music in Japan in the 80s and, kind of connect with both the younger and older generations.
Does it seem like this song was written for this movie then? It's obviously Hirokazu Tanaka. Does it sound like it was written for it?
Yes, it was definitely written for the movie. Tanaka Hirokazu definitely does a lot of songs specifically for certain projects in the Pokemon anime. And this song especially syncs up very nice with the mood of the piece and the other songs on the soundtrack, and lyrically it matches with what's going on. Definitely for the movie.
Yep, all aspects we'll get into in a little bit. Going back over to the English side, we have celeb-r-a-t-e, which, is celebi, then a bunch, initialized or hyphenated letters there is the title. It was written by Russell Velazquez and Michael Hagney. Russell Velazquez worked on a number of songs for the first couple seasons. You can also hear him in the title track from the To Be a Master album and in the second season dub theme, Pokemon World. So this is, he's done several things there. And actually, I believe now he's working over at Sesame Workshop. So he's sort of transcended, I guess he's gone down in the age group target audience type of measurement, I guess. Not to disparage his work or anything, just wanted to kind of point that out. Michael Hagney was the original dub voice director, during the first couple seasons in the 4Kids era. And he also did a number of voices. The one he's probably best known for is Misty Psyduck. He also did, like I said, Blaine and a bunch of other Pokemon, including Ash's Snorlax, and he's also used as the Snorlax voice sample in the English versions of the Super Smash Bros. Game. So if you've been body slammed in that game, you know who to thank. Obviously, this was written for the movie. I suppose the only other possibility is that it was written way before when they didn't know Celebi would be in the movie, but it seems pretty likely that it was written for this context.
I would bet that, yeah.
In any case, so now we're going to talk about sort of the feel and our reaction to the movies. Let's go back over to the Japanese side. Now, just to refresh the audience, I don't have much of a background in the Japanese language. I can hear or understand a few words here or there. But the vibe I definitely got from Please Let There Be Good Weather Tomorrow definitely seemed very contemplative or reflective. Is that the sound you kind of got there?
Definitely. It's kind of got a feel of, watching time go by and nostalgia and, hoping for the future. But there's this breadth of experience behind that. It's not like a youthful hoping for the future. It's the vision of an older person reflecting on the life that came before and therefore appreciating everything that comes next.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like good music to sort of accompany a like thoughtful walk or something like that. That's sort of from the instrumentation and the tempo and whatnot. That's sort of you got that little piano back and forth melody there. Like I said, I don't understand much Japanese. Lyrically, does it tie into the movie in certain ways?
Yes, but not as specifically as some of the past ones. Like, I can't find any specific section of lyrics where I can say, oh, that's referencing a certain point in the movie. So in that sense, it's a little weird. But, like, it evokes the feeling of Professor Oak so strongly. And, being on a journey, because, like, there are a few lines about people walking and thinking about their hometown. But, yeah, nothing specific like in some of the past songs, which is kind of different.
Yeah, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie. The character who travels through time is seems to be a younger version of Professor Oak. Actually, we can pretty much confirm it is. Yeah. They made it actually a little more obvious in the English version that that's who it is. But so does it sound in a way like Professor Oak might be contemplating sort of the passage of time and things like that, and maybe what his legacy as a scientist would be? I would definitely say that. Like it's definitely looking at the world and the beauties of the world and appreciating, nature, which is all things that fit with that character. And I suppose given that he is a famous poet, the very poetic way of expressing the beauty around him is present. And then talking about the children, there's a verse where it's talk about he's just observing the young people, like small hands waving, and he's, thinking over and over again about all the young people calling out, see you tomorrow, and, going about and living their lives and how that makes him feel. That is definitely a Professor Oak sort of observation. Like nobody else in the series has quite that perspective. Yeah, I wouldn't say we get to know any of the other professors quite as well, but I think that's definitely a fair reflection there. And the poetry angle, this song, the lyrics have a definite meter to them. Even as someone who doesn't speak Japanese, there's a definite intentional rhythm to it. Did you catch that as well? Yeah, it definitely differs from the pop sound that we're kind of used to, which is kind of a set amount of syllables, and there's a rhyme at the end, and then the next line kind of matches that, and we get to expect what comes next. This one kind of meanders almost, and goes however long the line needs to complete the phrase. And there is a meter to it. There is a plan, but it's not something that's predictable in the way that our brains like pop music to be predictable and set and rhythmic. It follows its own little path as it comes to its thought. You had mentioned some of Fuji, the singer's other work. Does it compare? Is it very different from that? How would you compare it? I would say it's a little different. Not drastically, because he does do a lot of ballads, and he has kind of a lot of those contemplative sorts of songs, like The Night When You Think of Me and Under Harajuku Above, Shimokita, Age of Wind. Like, he's got a lot of songs that kind of take that deviation, but he also has a lot of songs that are a little more jumpy and a little more poppy. So I definitely think as his career went on, he found more and more of those ballads, similar to a lot of, solo male pop music of his time and of his age. It's nothing like his stuff with the Checkers, but always interesting to take, a professional musician and compare their work on a movie ending song to their normal work. Yeah. And like I said earlier, there's quite a contrast in the sound of these two songs. If we go back to the English side, celebi-r-a-t-e is very much a energetic song. Pretty much, in terms of energy, just the total opposite of the Japanese song. What did you think of the instrumentation there? I really like what's going on musically with celebi-r-a-t-e.
the effects that they used and the feeling of looping and like the time goes on and on section. Like there's a lot of really clever things going on musically in this song, that taken as a standalone song, I really am on board with and really do seem to fit that time loop thing.
Yeah, the song definitely has an interesting flow. I mean, it does go from start to end, and it is more or less cohesive, but it does have sort of those weird little callbacks you might expect from a song that has a theme about time. And actually, one of the things it does is there are parts of the song that are backmasked. Now, backmasking is where they'll take, words or a passage from somewhere and sort of flip the sound so it plays backwards and put it in there. It is, there are a lot of cases where folks are accused of using it that it's really just a nonsense thing. But in this case, if you reverse it, it sounds perfectly clear, and you can kind of tell that is exactly what they did. It actually just says "Yo Detour," which is also in the song forwards. But the song definitely has effects like that in it, which, like I said, is befitting to the subject matter.
Yeah, it's really cool, like a lot of the things that they were playing around with in the song.
But if I had to sort of, rate the lyrics as saying something about the movie or giving some sort of insight, I kind of gotta say it doesn't do a great job of that. It doesn't really give me an alternative perspective. It sounds really neat, and I like it musically. Mm-hmm. But as far as relating to the movie, I don't think it does as great of a job as some of the previous ones.
Agreed.
I'd mentioned earlier that Russell had done a couple other songs for the Pokemon dub, like I said, the title track from To Be a Master and the Pokemon World second season theme. How do you think this compares to some of his other work on the series?
Well, I definitely associate him in my head with a lot of the more fun songs, like Two Perfect Girls and stuff like that. But didn't he also write a lot of the songs for Totally Pokemon, like Biggest Part of My Life?
Oh, yeah, he wrote a ton of stuff, too.
So, like, as a writer, as a lyric writer, I kind of associate him with a lot of the songs that have moved me on the English side that were written specifically for this series. So I think he's got a great talent for digging into this series and finding those little moments that kind of resonate with the fans. I don't think this was necessarily his best work lyrically, but I think that attention to detail he did musically on Celebi-r-a-t-e can also be found in the lyrics he writes that are a little more encompassing, like, again, with Two Perfect Girls, or a lot of the songs that just dig a little deeper into the characters in the world of Pokemon.
Yeah, maybe part of the issue is that I don't know that I would say Celebi shows a ton of personality in the movie. I mean, it's there. It has its signature time travel ability, but I don't know that we get that much of a character out of it. Do you think that might have been an issue?
That could be it, yeah, because the connection of the Celebi and the time travel is there, but it is the low-hanging fruit if you're trying to find something to write an ending song about. Like, there were so many other themes going on in that movie that, really did have great meaning and characters that were a little deeper. Maybe picking a song about them would have given us a better ending theme, but it wouldn't have had as catchy of a title, so.
Yeah, I suppose they could have maybe reused this song or rewritten it to be about the Celebi from the Mystery Dungeon games, which might have provided more of a springboard there to some interesting discussion. So maybe that was sort of a handicap as well. Without knowing more about the production of this song, like I said, musically it seems fine. It doesn't maybe say as much as I would like about the movie, but I love listening to it. I will say that.
Yeah, it would have been a great song to be included on a soundtrack if we had a different ending theme. But
yeah, if they were still doing those, those full albums for each movie, I'm sure they would have had plenty to choose from if they wanted to find songs about the passage of time, because that is a very common subject matter in music. So
yeah, I can see the song having become a fan favorite as a standalone song, but it does leave you a little lacking as a movie ending. And I remember when I heard it for the first time, I kind of hated this song for a long time because it was so not what I was expecting once the credits started to roll. And I was a little bitter about that.
Perhaps. I can certainly see that point of view, that this sort of in fact, puts the end credits in a sequence in a bit of a different light than the Japanese one does. Whereas I think the Japanese one, based on what I know, might actually encourage people to stick around more. Not that Celebi-r-a-t-e is a bad song or anything, but I don't think it encourages folks to stay and watch the credits. Not that a lot of ending songs can do that, but it seems like it's in a way telling the audience that it's okay to go up and go home or whatever.
Right. Please let there be good weather tomorrow. It kind of continues the story as an epilogue almost. And it is more culturally, at the time, expected that people would stay around in the credits, that this story would continue through the credits. I mean, maybe the parents would, start ushering their really young children out the door, but a lot of people would stay, and that was the expectation, that you could sneak little things in the credits, and like the Marvel movies now, people would watch the whole thing to see that.
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, to be honest, just me personally, I usually stick around to watch the end of the credits because that's where all the music credits are, and being musically inclined such as myself, that's sort of a habit I got into to see where everything is from and who wrote it and who performed it and things like that.
Yeah, but I would definitely say the mainstream North American viewer, until recently, we didn't have that expectation that people would sit through the entire credits. Whereas I think over in Japan, it was a little bit leaning in the other direction for certain movies.
Yeah. Well, we've definitely gotten into the compare and contrast portion of this discussion. It does sound like, the Japanese song has more going for it in terms of ambition and things like that. Does that sound about right to you? Yeah.
And speaking musically about the Japanese version, I do kind of want to speak to it because most of it is that little piano interlude, but there's a section in the middle where it really starts to swell and you get a synth and all these things, some, rhythmic stuff. And I'm not going to lie, I was crying a little bit during that section and I felt moved. So it seems really simple at the beginning, and then it kind of drops down again towards the end. But it's got some moments where there's a little bit more going on with it.
Yeah, that section of it is pretty impressive, if you ask me. Yeah, celeb-r-a-t-e is definitely more even throughout until you get to the very end, where it sort of starts to it does fade out at the end. No, actually it doesn't. It has have a more or less hard ending, but the energy drops a little bit for the last 30 seconds to a minute of it versus this one, which sort of has a ABA type of structure on the Japanese side. Well, I think we've said enough about this. As far as a judgment on which we like better, I'd absolutely have to give Please Let There Be Good Weather Tomorrow points for trying to do something more interesting, more ambitious, having a bit more, I guess you could say, culture to it, maybe definitely a bit more refined, and things like that. Celebi-r-a-t-e, though, I kind of prefer as a song to just listen to, but I'll admit it's a bit fluffier. So I suppose on musical merit and tying to the movie, I got to give the Japanese song the edge in this one. Like I said, since these songs are so different, it's really kind of hard for me to directly compare them, but that's sort of where I stand on that.
Yeah, they're definitely being judged on completely different criteria. There's no similarities at all. I'm Please Let There Be Good Weather Tomorrow as well, because I always, one that fits the movie best. But I want to give celeb-r-a-t-e points because I really had such a hatred and a dislike for this song, but it has grown on me. It has crept up to be a song that I actually enjoy listening to now. So I think it deserves a little bit of credit for just being a good song that is in a rough place.
Yeah, I don't know if they had some other ideas or if something fell through and they didn't have a ton of time to write this, or if they had to sort of shove it into that place and they had some other ideas about the song. But like I said, if I had to put one above the other, probably the Japanese one for this one. But like I said, by no means do I hate Celebi-r-a-t-e. I actually really like it as music, and I, as music, would probably listen to it more often than the Japanese one, but if I were going by points, I would probably give the Japanese one the edge.
Keep listening for more from this interview.